Hello folks, and welcome to the Counting Sheep podcast. This is episode 57. My name is Ruth, and I will be your host for the next half hour or so, bringing you some goodness in fiber, crocheting, knitting, spinning, what I get up to in and around my small sheep farm here in Vermont. How are you? Welcome to all of my new subscribers. I'm glad you're here, and also welcome back to those of you who have been with me for a while. It is fall in the Northeast, and I am here for it. We just got in from a walk with our dog Cooper, and even though we didn't have the greatest foliage season this year, there are some trees that are still trying to give us some color out there, so it's nice to get out and look around. Speaking of looking around, if you're looking for me anywhere on the social networks, I am Rabbitlady on Ravelry, Countingsheepatsunrisehill on Instagram and Threads, and then finally I am Counting Sheep, 2 words, on Facebook. So that I'm going to try to include in my intro every time now, because it was pointed out to me that I wasn't telling you where I was, which is just terrible. And I also put it in the down bar below the video. I am fresh back from Rhinebeck. I will have some of my small haul to show you at the end of the podcast, and also after that I'll show you some footage from Rhinebeck. I don't do a really intensive, all-inclusive type of video of Rhinebeck like other channels do, because I feel like I'm there to enjoy it and be in the moment. My good friend Kendra and I went on Sunday when it was just a wee bit less crazy. I was talking to some of the vendors, and even they said that Saturday was quite crazy there at Rhinebeck. But you know, with Saturday, it's all about the people and the vibe, rather than the shopping, even though people do shop on Saturday, and it's very difficult to get in and out of the different booths. We found it to be that way as the day progressed on Sunday. So it was a good thing that we kind of got an early start and got a lot of things accomplished before that started to really kick in. But anyway, I will go into that later on. What I'm wearing, I just want to show you. This is my Stockholm Slipover. I made this a while ago, and it's by Petiteknits. She's a very talented designer on Ravelry, and she has a lot of different designs out. She has designed this. I did mine in the round neckline, but she also has a V-neck out now. But anyway, I did this in my own farm yarn. This is a fingering weight yarn. So I'm just going to stand up and show you. So very nice layer, especially around this time of year where if you want to wear wool. It's a nice light layer, and it insulates really well, and keeps you warm. So yeah, and it's a nice pattern. She writes a really nice pattern. All right, I think I'm going to jump right in. I've got a bunch of stuff to show. In terms of crochet, which is where I start first, I have one whip, which I've been showing to you for the past couple times. This yarn was a Rhinebeck purchase of last year, and I did go by that booth again. I almost picked up another skein of that yarn in a different colorway, but I resisted because this thing is not done yet, and I'm trying to get better at accomplishing things rather than letting things languish around. But anyway, I am making the Stem and Petals shawl, and that is a pattern by Merino. And let me just show you really quickly the picture. This is what it looks like. So it is a pattern designed for a self, it is a, how do you call that? It is a assigned pulling yarn. I want to make sure I get my words right here. And this is the colorway I'm working with. This is from Cozy Color Works. They were at Rhinebeck again, as I said. It's hand-dyed superwash merino, and you get 1,100 yards in this 8-ounce ball. It looks kind of jumbled up when it's balled up, but when it's in the big round skein, you can definitely see where they, you know, assign the pooling on one end of the skein. But anyway, this is how I'm getting on with this. I'm using a 3.75 millimeter hook, and that would be in American sizes as an F. And I just think this is interesting. I'm making slow progress on it, but I'm enjoying it. You know, you just kind of go along, making a regular half double crochet stitch in the green, and then as soon as you hit one of those color pulling lengths of yarn, you make this special stem and petals stitch. And I think I was down here somewhere, so it doesn't look like I've done much. You increase 2 stitches every other row. So it gets larger and larger and larger as you go along. And then also you're to save some certain amount of, I think it's 20 grams or so. You want to save at the end so that you can do a border all the way around the shawl. So, but yeah, I really enjoyed making this a lot, and continue to enjoy it. It's one of those things you just kind of pick up, and I'm not going to say it's mindless, but it's very relaxing because you really don't need to follow a pattern. The yarn tells you what to do. So yeah, great. And Cozy Color Works has this yarn in so many different hand-dyed colorways. I'm telling you, if you go on their website, you're gonna have a hard time choosing which one you want. And last year, I know people were just gaga over this. I think because I was there on Saturday, everybody was kind of digging in the bin and going through the colors and that sort of thing. And on Sunday this year, it wasn't as crazy, you know, going through the colors. So you could actually get to the yarn and actually look at it. So yeah, that was a lot of fun. But like I said, I'm gonna make sure I get that done first before I go into any other assigned pooling type projects. But so that's the Stem and Petals Shawl by Val Merino. And then, I wanted to mention one thing. As you know, I'm a big fan of Tinderbox, which is Courtney Clark. And she is having a sale. It's her birthday today, I think. And I'm not sure, like when you're viewing this, she has a birthday 50% off one pattern if you subscribe to her newsletter. But she has 25% off all of her patterns until Sunday if you're a subscriber to her newsletter. So it's well worth going over there and just subscribing to her newsletter to get that code. She has a lot of patterns. She does dresses, skirts. She even has shorts. And she has overalls now too. I was looking this morning on Ravelry. I mean, she's just so prolific with her crochet. And she also has a channel here on YouTube if you like to follow her. She has a lot of good tips and tricks on her YouTube channel. So that was one thing I wanted to remind myself to tell you. I wrote a note in between here, in between items here. So I wanted to show you that something that I have that I want to start for crochet once the shawl is done. I tend to start to swatch stuff and just get some idea of where I'm going with in terms of my next project. And this project comes out of a book that I got probably 2 to 3 years ago now at Vermont Sheep and Wool. But anyway, this book is called Crochet for Every Day, and it is by May Britt Bigello Zamori. I'm gonna put that up to the camera so any of you that are interested can screenshot that, because I tend to butcher names. But anyway, it says 30 gorgeous patterns for going out and staying in. Apparently she's also authored another book called Carefree Crochet. But the one that caught my eye in this book, there's several that have, let's just be honest. But the one that caught my eye was the Sandra short sleeve jacket. Let me just show you this. So that's the Sandra short sleeve jacket. And what caught me about this jacket was, of course, the texture and the pockets. Oh, love the pockets. And just an FYI, this is for my crochet people that maybe don't knit. The linings of these pockets are knitted. And so it's not to say you can't crochet them, but the pattern itself gives instruction for a knitted lining. But anyway, this jacket really caught my eye. They have a pillow in here of the same stitch pattern. So I busted out the yarn that I got for this, because I got this book at Vermont Sheep and Wool Festival, and then when I saw the pattern, I boot scoot and boogied over to FiberStash, which is a Vermont yarn dyer, and I decided on a speckled yarn and picked up enough of FiberStash yarn to make this cardigan. So this is her Tweedy Toes sock yarn. It is 85% superwash merino and 15% nylon neps. So let me see if my camera can pick up the neps. There you go. So it's like a gray color. It's got some brown and some black neps in it. And I just did a very small swatch. They only give a gauge for stitches, not rows. And I just want to show you what the swatch looks like. So there is the front of the swatch. And the hook size they call for on this is a 3.5 millimeter. And yeah, I'm spot on gauge for this. I think I need to mark the calendar. Yeah, and then this is the rear of the swatch there. So yeah, this is going to eat a lot of yarn. I ended up getting, I think, 6 skeins. Where are my notes? I purchased 6 skeins. Each skein is 438 yards for a total of 2,628 yards. And I'm just about going to make it with that. I may even have to take the swatch out, but hopefully not. I might make it shorter than is given in the pattern, just because I don't like sitting on my sweaters. But but no, I think it's going to look very beautiful there. And I like the idea of the short sleeve too. So, and a nice V-neck. So stay tuned. That's going to be a future project for me. Glad to have the swatching out of the way. And glad to be using a Vermont dyer's yarn. So that's really good. All right, so that is it for crocheting. In knitting, I have some progress to share on a whip that I've been working on for a while now. And that is the Brookdale vest by Elizabeth Smith Knits. And I've shown this before. I am doing mine in Briggs & Little Heritage yarn. It's their heavy worsted weight yarn in the mauve colorway. And this is going to be hard to show because things are on barber cords and whatnot. But here is the back. I've split for the sleeve, or actually, yeah, for the sleeve opening, or the armhole opening. And then I got one front done, which I'm so proud of. As you can see, there's a lot going on here. I've got things on 2-stitch holders up here. This is actually where the shoulder is. The vest has a shawl collar to it, so the collar continues beyond the shoulder, and then you put the stitches on hold until you get the second side done, which is over here, already poised on my needle to go. And once that's completed, you do a connecting 3-needle bind off in the back, and then you go back to the back and do that one. So yeah, coming along. Made some progress on this, and proud to be able to show it off. Yeah, it's got a little bit of texture to it, which is nice. And there'll be a little bit more texture up right under the back neck, which I found to be just charming. So yeah, that's my Brookdale. And I am using number 7 needles. Told you about the yarn, and yeah, highly recommend the pattern, very clearly written. And I don't know what else I can tell you about that one. I think I talked about it enough on the other podcast episodes, so it's just a matter of putting the time in, right? All right, so I want to show you something else I swatched, because I'm always looking for the next project, and it's another vest. I was inspired by Sarah over It Is a Sarah podcast. If you don't watch her, you should. She is a Dutch podcaster, and God bless her, she does her podcasts in English and in Dutch, and she's just a delight to listen to and to watch. But she a while ago combined 2 different vest patterns, and one of which is the Nordic. Let me show you this. It's this vest on the cover of Nordic Knits, a lineup publication, and the name of the pattern is Nordic Bloom. Let me see if I can find a better picture than just the, the cover. Anyway, she found that when she did her swatch in the yarn that she was working with, she didn't get the gauge that the pattern had. And lucky for her, she had already made a vest called the Calidez Vest. And that one is this vest. Let me make sure I'm showing you the right thing here. So what's interesting about this is it's done in a worsted weight yarn, which is also the case with the Nordic Bloom Vest. But what's great about this pattern is in the back, it gives you kind of a chart, so that if you're not able to make gauge as the pattern states, it will give you numbers to start with to match your gauge. So I'll give you an example. The yarn that I swatched with is my own farm yarn, and this is my one of my Shetland sheep from a while ago. His name is Fergus. He's no longer with us. He was a lovely Morit color. I love this color. And I had this mill spun into a worsted weight yarn. And then when I went to gauge swatch it, I used a number 8 needle. I like the fabric. But I'm getting about 15 1/4 inches per words. I'm getting about 15 1/4 stitches per 4 inches. And the Nordic Bloom Vest is 4 stitches per inch. And I'm getting, all right, let's just round down to 15. For 15, I'd be getting, what did I say? 3 and 3¾ stitches per inch. So I'm not making gauge, but I like this fabric. So what's nice about the Calidez vest is she was able to combine the numbers from the Calidez vest on the, the chart that they give in the back, and then work, this color work pattern into those that number of stitches. So she was able to finagle it, in other words, and kind of Frankenstein the two patterns together. So in other words, the Calidez vest took all the math out of it for you. And so I'm thinking about doing that myself. So I am going to use my farm yarn here. And then for the actual color work, I'm going to switch rows, every other color row. And I'm going to use this. So this is from let me see, Petals Yarn Company. I will put it on the screen. This is their 100% merino. There are 2 different colorways here. This darker one is apricot jam, and this other one is bottled sunshine. So apricot jam and bottled sunshine. So I'm going to do switch off the rows and get this nice marled effect for those flowers that are on the Nordic Bloom Vest. So we'll see how that goes. I'm enjoying working with a larger yarn for right now, especially since I tend to use more of the fingering weights with my crochet. And this is kind of appealing to me. This has got a nice drape to it. I kept my little safety pins here just so I could, this is 16 stitches between the pins. Just in case I needed to check it again and again and again, because I kind of get obsessed that way. But I found that I can keep a more steady, accurate gauge when I use these kind of cubic needles. This is a US 8, and I don't even know the brand, but I did notice I got a Knit Picks catalog in the mail the other day. They have a brand of these, the square cubic needles, so they're supposed to really even out things, even out your stitch shape and that sort of thing. So I have used them before. I enjoy using the wooden needles. So my go-to is always ChowGoo. I like their cords. I like the sharp points, the whole 9 yards. So, but yeah, so stay tuned. Nordic Bloom Vest and numbers from the Calidez Vest. So we'll see where that leads me. And then another thing that came across my radar this week was that Sarah Shira of Imagined Landscapes came out with a Christmas gnome for this year. And I had some, I have still some yarn left over from when I made those mitts the Bobble Pop mitts from last week that I showed. So I'm going to try to use it up. Although this one uses a DK yarn, but she does state that you can use a fingering weight yarn. It's just going to be smaller, obviously. I think if you use the DK weight yarn, what did she say how tall this is? It's pretty tall. I think it's like 15 inches tall if you make the DK weight one. So if you do the fingering weight one, obviously it's going to be a lot shorter. But yeah, isn't he cute? Simply adorable. And yeah, so I've got my needles. I've got all that leftover yarn from the vest I made, and then those mitts. So that'll be fun to do. I'm going on a trip next week, and I think I'm going to keep it small what I'm going to bring along. So this kind of fills the bill. All right, so that I think is all I have for the knitting and crochet. I'm going to go into my Rhinebeck recap. I'm going to show you some of the stash, or some of the stuff, stash enhancement stuff that I got. But suffice it to say, it was a beautiful weekend. Beautiful weather. You couldn't have asked for anything better. I believe on Sunday when we were there, it hit a high of 70, so it got a little warm to wear wool for me, but I stuck it out. And if the buildings got a little warm, I just went outside. So yeah, we walked around. We got lunch also. We managed everything without too much of a line or too much of a wait, which is kind of the beauty of going on Sunday. And it was just a different vibe, you know, than Saturday is. For me, I enjoy seeing all the inspiration. Obviously, there is a lot to see. And if you're going yourself, it pays to kind of map out who you're going to see and whatnot. And I did have a plan. I didn't buy from all of the vendors that I had planned to see. Like for Cozy Color Works, I thought maybe I was going to get another skein of the assigned pooling yarn, but I decided to put that off for another year. I did manage to get to Feederbrook Farm. I had a nice conversation. I always have nice conversations with those people. They are out of Maryland, and they have wonderful rovings as well as yarn that they dye themselves. I am going to confess right up front, there are two vendors that I paid cash for, and I neglected to get their names or their business cards. So I'm going to show you some merchandise, and bad podcaster on me for not getting the info, but the merchandise was spectacular at Rhinebeck. And if you do get a chance to go, at least once in your lifetime, it's worth just, you know, being there and being a part of it. So the first thing I bought, I think I went through 2 barns before I even, you know, bought anything, but I saw this and I was like, okay, this is good. This is right up my alley. It is a seasonal tumbler, the way it's decorated, but I have a feeling I'm going to leave it out all year long. Anyway, so it says crochet, and it's got this lovely cat crocheting because murder is wrong. And yeah, how could I leave that behind, you know? Now this is the vendor I paid cash for, and I can't recall who they are. I want to say Heirloom. They had a booth outside in between the barns, and just needed a little sip of water here. But it's nice to have kind of a designated, this is for water only tumbler, because all my other cups tend to find coffee, you know, and then they kind of get stained, and they also retain the flavor of coffee. So this is my water tumbler, and it was well used that day, since it was warm and sunny, and so we were hydrating with that tumbler straight off. That was my first purchase. I'm going to show you what I got from Feederbrook, because it's sitting right here and it's saying, show me please. I showed you some stuff that I bought there last year. It was just in a big bag. These are braids. And so let me show you the real colorful one first. This is Superwash Merino. They don't really name their colorways, so I'm going to try to show you as much as I can in terms of the color. There's a lot going on. And truth be told, by the time I got to her booth, she was pretty cleaned out, as were a lot of the, not a lot of vendors, but there were a couple here and there that were packing up by noon already on Sunday. I'm glad they had a great show, but I'm also sorry to have missed their merchandise because they sold out. But anyway, and Feederbrook still had a lot of yarn left, but not as much roving. So yeah. And then I bought this one to kind of go with it, but I'm not sure if it's going to go with it. I just kind of like the color, so, and I'm kind of in my purple phase right now anyway. This is also Moreno. So it kind of complements it, goes with it, you know, and we'll see, you know, it's pretty. It's all pretty. Another vendor I went by that I like to run into all the time. Last year I bought a sweater kit from them, which I still haven't started yet, but we won't talk about that. They have wonderful sweater kits, but they also have embroidery kits as well. And the one thing that caught my eye was this boot embroidery. So this is an embroidery that goes on kind of I forget what they call this part of the boot that's kind of stretchy. These are Bloodstone boots, but there are other brand names of boots. And so, of course, they had one boot displaying the embroidery on there. So, of course, I was a sucker for that, since I'm kind of getting into embroidery. And so this was the pattern. And then they also had little kits of their wool yarn to do said embroidery. So, so that I had to get from Subito Farms. There was a vendor there. I'm sorry to say I didn't get the name, but I bought a very small heddle. This is a small heddle. This technique, this is for like weaving like bands and belts and that sort of thing. And this acts obviously as the shed, you know, it creates the sheds in weaving. I saw some of these on Instagram before I went down to Rhinebeck, and I thought, oh, well, it'd be cool if I saw something similar. Well, there you go. And it was very reasonably priced, so I got one. So then I was after shuttles to go with it. So with a heddle, you need the shuttle so you can weave back and forth. And I went over to Susan's fiber shop because I know she has bits and bobs of all sorts of stuff. And she had these small little heddles, which were just wonderful. So yeah, I like to toy around with portable weaving type stuff. So, so this really intrigued me. Stay tuned. I'll show you something from this, hopefully sooner or later. But this is definitely going to be something I figure out over the winter, is how to weave a band. Also from Susan's Fiber Shop, remember when I showed you this Granny Square card deck that I got a couple weeks ago? Well, she had the flower card deck there, so how could I resist that? So I got some ideas percolating for Granny Squares in terms of just a vest. Got some, you know, some minis kicking around, and thought it would be really cool to make some flower Granny Squares, you know, be a real flower child. So, but yeah, Susan's that was from Susan's Fiber Shop. She's in Columbus, Wisconsin. Comes a ways to do Rhinebeck. And then finally, I picked up some Cormo. Cormo is a cross sheep, so it's Merino and Corriedale. So that's how they get the name Cormo. But I was kind of after Cormo. It's hard to find sometimes. And this came from, I was smart enough to pick up a business card from this lady. Her name is Stefania Isaacson, and she hails from St. Charles, Illinois, another person that came from far away. And her business name is Handspun by Stefania. And she had a whole bunch of different rovings, dyed rovings, mostly Coopworth, but she did have some Cormo. So this she dyed with indigo, and this is got some silk in it, I believe. Yeah, maybe not. I think I just misread the label, but I think this is just pure Cormo, which is just gorgeous. Just looking at it, and it feels nice. So yeah, I think this is 4 ounces. So we'll see what I make from that. Can't wait to spin that up. So yeah, that is about all of my take from Rhinebeck. Like I said, we had a wonderful time. Oh, one last thing I got, I forgot. They have a big food building there where you can go, and the vendors are there from the area that have foodstuffs. It could be beer, wine, pretzels, cheese, candy, you know, I think somebody had jelly, that sort of thing. So we stopped in there, and the first stop we made was to a place that makes glug, which is a mulled wine, and they make it in the Norwegian tradition. So we had a little sample of that, and it tasted so good, so I brought a bottle of that home as well. So that was a nice little, you know, token from the actual area of Rhinebeck. All right, I think that's going to do it for me this go round. So I am going to be off on a trip next week. Going to go see my nephew get married in San Diego, and hoping that we have a good time getting through TSA, and hope the flight's on time, all those things that you hope for, which seems to be in crazy land right now. But anyway, yeah, so I'm gonna fly out there and fly back, and so I'm just all of this is to say that my next podcast might be a little tardy. It might be more towards the weekend of 2 weeks from now, only because we get back on a Wednesday. I usually record on a Wednesday, and I think I'm just going to be toast. I'm being honest. So yeah, with the time change and all that. So yeah, I will see you soon. Just not probably in 2 weeks, maybe 2 weeks and a couple days. All right. So until then, keep crafting, stay safe, and I will see you soon. Take care now.